And welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. And to answer your question, Dirt, yes, we do. But the thing I told you about earlier is in effect. Yep. We're just raining all over the place here, folks. Oh, wait.
What happened?
Now I can't hear you, Dirt.
Oh, no. Nice.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, I was so not happy about that. Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Not cool. Not at all.
Mentioned that last week, and this week we're still growing pains, folks. But I think we're similarly doing somewhat better than some folks are. But that case, hey, guess what, folks? It's Comic Book Chronicles. We are here back again for your eyes and ears. If you're watching the video, you will see, hey, we got 3/4 of the crew this time. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter, Newsletters Need on Twitter, Newsletters Needs Reddit, CB Caps on Instagram.
Ching.
That was a ching. Yeah. You know what? Never mind. I'm not gonna do that. It doesn't matter. Also, the man behind the sound effects, which trust me, they're there.
They worked last week, which is the funniest part.
Yeah, there is also that. But Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
And with us tonight is what the hell?
No. Oh no.
No, it wasn't you. It was something I just did. PC_Dirt. You can find me at PC_Dirt on Twitter. On what? Oh. That's don't pay that no mind. Don't look at it too. It's Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and all of his umbrella sites they're in.
Yay. Ching.
Yeah, fun times, folks. Fun times. So yeah, we are here again. You can find this here thing, so we can go ahead and get that shit out of the way. Google Play. See, this is what happens when you get flustered because this don't go right. Anywho, Google Play, Apple iTunes, Spotify. You can find us on all those places. SoundCloud under the Coast of the Podcast Network page. There we go. Hey, wait, that happened. That worked. I don't know what you just did, but that
worked. But is there a ghost echo?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Love it.
Okay, now it's gone. CSPN.us. Go there. Podcast is there. Just like, every other podcast in the known universe. Those are the only ones. Just the CSPNs. That's it. No one else. So we're going to get into the books of the week really, really, really quickly. As we tend to do on every Thursday Thursday night at some point in time. Who am I kidding with?
It happens.
I mean, even when we did work the software, and we do know how to work the software, it just misfits.
It's not playing well with well with our stuff.
And let's face it, it's not like we didn't have those issues when we did have a consistent program to use. So, but anywho's, yes, first book of the night, as we tend to do, is going to be some would argue the big book of the week, and that is House of 10.
No, it's not.
Shush.
It's not.
Shush.
Roddykat's being obstinate.
Shush.
It's House of X. No 10. Shushing.
No.
It's Powers of 10 and House of X.
Powers of 10, then it's House of 10. Damn it. House of X number 2. Yes, it is the 10 man. It's always been the 10 man. Yes. Well, no, Tim's not here. Tim's not here. Reminds me, I forgot about that. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. My fault. CBR, CB Cron, DClick Nation, DKLIQNECON. That's DClickNation.com. Also, Tim Dog, go there, find him, read his stuff. Yeah, this is a good one for the books, folks. House of X number 2. What we got? Nobody?
All right. Well, I happen to like this. It's another intriguing chapter in Hickman's X-Men, and it turns out I was right about who the character was in House of X number 1.
Props for you for that.
Who was talking to Xavier on the park bench, but I was more than surprised to find out about the twist to the character that was involved. And while I wasn't as shocked, I'm in the same boat that Tim Dog 98 was in. I happened to look at his tweet during our pre-show insanity trying to get this show going. I happened to look at his tweet, and I found myself agreeing with his general sentiment, but at the same time, I'm still impressed at the direction that this change in this, what was once what has still really been a background character for the majority of the X-Men run, how everything sort of pivots on this one character according to Hickman's new take. So it really does set up more intrigue, and it really will kind of impact how you read Powers of 10 number 2, which is going to be out next week.
Yes, definitely, because that introduction started in Powers of X number 1, Powers of 10, whatever. I don't care at this point. And yeah, we got a little, as usual, it tends to happen with Hickman stuff. It's like, hey, you introduces something and then brings it up in something totally different the next week or so. But which also still tends to bring up more and more questions that will be answered at some point now down the line. And yeah, this is, as you would say, Agent 78, this was a pretty big retcon for the character of Myra McTaggart, whom we are speaking of. And kind of interesting, but also kind of weird. So she's basically got her powers are basically some sort of Doctor Who / Groundhog Day thing going on.
Right.
But with her full life.
Right. There's definitely a familiarity that people have with the idea, but at the same time, the way it's implemented, and with the particular character that it's implemented with, really does, especially knowing what role that she plays, even in the original continuity with Xavier and the founding of the Gifted School. Right. It really does change, kind of puts things on their head.
Right, which brings the question: what is, given all of that was given in this book, what is the original continuity? Well, I mean, we gotta get answer to that, because everything we know in the Prime universe up until AVX, if I'm not mistaken, is pretty much solid. Would you agree with that?
I have to take a look at that timeline again. I know that Hickman.
Well, when the timeline is the stuff, it was like there was a one page that pretty much had like the Phoenix 5, and then basically the original students, the new class, and then the Phoenix 5.
No, but at the same time, there's also a graphic in the book that lays out, right. And I think the graphic may not necessarily agree with what you just said, so that's why I don't remember it exactly, but I'd have to take a look at the graphic and see what would have changed. Now that we kind of know what happened, I guess it's still in the background at the end of the day, because it's still McTaggart being a background character and all.
Right. And yeah, speaking of that graphic, that does not play nice digitally. So, because obviously you're reading one page and then the other page,
right?
It's one big 2-page spread.
Or right. It's one of those. Yeah, it's one of those. You got to have a reader that allows you to read it side by side. So. Right,
which you could do, but it's just like, yeah. So yeah, there was a good bit of unsurprised expedition dump, but also character development in this particular issue with not much else going on in it, which I recognize tends to put some people off, going by what some people have said online. But I'm sure it's probably all for the greater good, as we have tend to note with Hickman stuff. Not to give him too much credit, and hopefully it does turn out like as good as what he's thinking it's going to. but so far we're still in early days and we're getting crumbs. Despite everything we are getting, we're getting kind of crumbs at this point.
Right.
Nothing
in a real sense, it's an 8-issue limited series.
Right.
So we are not quite at the halfway point. So we'll see where we are at the end of Powers of 10 #2, and we'll really get a sense of actually, wait, no, it's a 12-issue limited series, not an 8, because it's 6 and 6.
Right.
So we still have a ways to go before we get to the halfway point. There's still some setup being done at this point.
Yeah.
So I think it's a worthwhile ride, though. Obviously, it plays better to people who are well versed in some of the X canon, especially as we go on a trip down memory brick road.
I kind of wonder at some points, because it seems like, well, there's going to be some, for lack of a better term, rewrites to what we know, or at the very least going forward with what the future stuff's going to hold. It seems like, anyway.
Possibly.
So yeah, while all of this good knowledge, I don't know how much it's going to serve you going into this, outside of the fact that it was like, oh, okay, yeah, here's some things that's familiar.
Right. It's about how it all fits together.
Right. And we won't know that until probably the new books come into play or the end of both series.
Did either of you buy physical copies of the first issues?
Yes.
No.
Okay. So, Agent 70, when you bought your copy, did they give you a package of seeds?
Oh, right.
I did not get one, but I know that they came out.
Okay. Well, yeah,
Right.
no, we got them. I just didn't know if either of you guys had picked them up.
No, and I didn't even check my shop to see if they had that little trinket.
Yeah, Krakoa seed packets in stores July 31st. It's on the back of the launch party card.
Yeah, which is basically they say corn flour, and it's like it's a nice little marketing thing. I mean, compared to some other things they've done. So you're looking.
I mean, I know stores are going to complain. Oh, I got to pay shipping for this too.
No, well, they'll get a shipping credit. You get a shipping credit back.
Oh, okay.
So you pay for it, but then you get credit on like your next bill.
Gotcha.
But say, are you looking to start your own mutant nation over there?
I was just curious if you guys had gotten any. If you're going to actually plant them somewhere.
I saw somebody online said they were going to, but I don't know if that's actually true. But I would
wait. So is it just what kind of seeds were they?
Corn flour, from what I saw.
Okay. Yeah. They're basically a type of plant that can grow just about anywhere. They only have to be like about, I think, 1/8 of an inch deep in the ground, and then get some water, and they'll start growing.
Wow.
So it's the type of thing that you can just basically throw out onto a dirt field. People walk across it, we'll push it far enough down, and then the rain comes and stuff will start to grow.
Right. So, like I said, this is a neat marketing thing, I guess. If you're going to do something like that.
Just the weirdest thing. It's like, hey, comic book collectors, here's a package of seeds. Go
outside, because we know you never do.
I'm just wondering how many people have bagged and boarded their bag of seeds and put it behind the book and they put it away.
That's what I would have done. It's like, this is not getting planted.
I was about to say, somebody did it. Somebody did that.
Totally. So, but yeah, so I don't know. We may have rung out Hearts of X. There's really not much else to say on that one. It's for whenever Powers of X, Powers of 10, whatever comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I tried to flip through the first issue and I just couldn't. All of those pages where Hickman comes up with these logos and has all this text, and it's like the history of blah 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 whatever, and I'm just like, I'm not reading this. I'm like, no, no.
What about when it becomes collected?
No.
Which will be in December, if I'm not mistaken. But okay. Well,
no, but I mean, not. I won't read the book. I would just never read those pages.
Sure.
Like if I decide to read the story, then those instantly get flipped past. Like when I'm in the middle of reading a comic, the last thing I want to do is read a short story about the history.
Read the prose.
Yeah, it's like no.
And unfortunately, it's important stuff. That's the thing.
Yeah,
and it'd be one thing like Legion of Superheroes did that for a while, where the final page would always be like a view screen of the digital newspaper of the future, and it would have some stuff that went along with the story, but it wasn't like you had to read it. it was just like some background stuff if you wanted to get more flavor of the world that they lived in, but you could just easily skip it because it didn't really matter. It just world building and expanding a little bit.
Right.
And I just look at Hickman and it's like, there's 12 pages out of the book that are almost completely useless, where it's just like a logo and 4 words. It's like, great, I'm glad you used a whole page to put that on there.
Yeah, but to be fair, you're reading Bendis. It can't be well.
I don't like Bendis either. I'm not liking his books. I'm not liking what he's doing on the DC books, so you can't. Yeah,
that wasn't
that's funny.
Yeah, that wasn't a good example there. Well, whatever.
All right, next up.
We've exhausted that. Let's go to what's something. So Justice League. Let's go ahead and get that one since you guys read that one.
Jaro.
Okay, well, and the next book. Let's go.
Jaro. Listen, I happen to like this issue for some of the same reasons that PCN_Dirt isn't a fan. I'm not following a lot of the Year of the Villain stuff that closely, and it was nice that this issue is actually, to a very large extent, new reader friendly. You can actually pick this issue up and get up to speed on what exactly Year of the Villain is, how we've gotten to this point in the world of the Justice League book, and what in a sense trying to prevent bad things from happening to the Justice League without spoiling too much of what happens. I don't know if you're going to read this, Roddykat, but Jaro is, just to refresh everyone's memory, Jaro is a fragment of Starro, the Conqueror.
Like grew in a jar.
Exactly. And hence Jaro,
And like, I'm fine with the character. Like, it's one of those things that's just so stupid. I enjoy that. Sure, why not? But yeah, this issue is a lot of recap. So if you've and most of it is from Justice League, from the last 7 issues of Justice League.
Right.
So if you didn't read it, but the main problem I have is up to this point, like Justice League, I don't know, 18 through 24 or 25 was all about the multiverse. Like, I don't care. Like, I just find myself reading all of these Year of the Villain things, and it's just like, whatever. It's like, yeah, this is what bad guys do, but this is not, it doesn't feel like anything that special. Yeah, bad guys are trying to take over the world. Got it. Lex Luthor, smartest man alive. Got it. Okay, let's, come on, let's do something. And it's just so much setup and so much of trying to build things up and so much, like The Offer. He's going out and appearing in all these books and, offering people powers and whatever. And it's just like, it's like you can do like 2 of those, and then you do the next issue of the book, and you go, here's a list of the 60 people that's taken the powers, and now let's go. Let's move on with it.
Right.
And instead, it's like watching season 3 of Lost, where it's just like, that somewhere down in the future, they're going to get somewhere that's going to probably pay off in some way, but the stuff you're watching now is just filler. It's just like treading water and filling time. And I don't know if this has to do with Doomsday Clock delays or this has to do with Tom King and the stuff on Batman. Like, I don't know what's going on, right. But it's just like, I don't care. I'm just,
Right. It's frustrating. I wanted to, if it's okay, if we transition into Batman number 76.
Yeah, it's fine.
Because it's funny that you mentioned that we don't have an idea of what the follow through is on this whole Year of the Villain stuff until we get to the rest of the DC line. And I'm only reading a few DC books. One of them is Batman, and we see in this book what the fallout is of the Year of the Villain on Gotham City, in conjunction with Bane's, big plan to break the bat yet again. So we at least see some of the Year of the Villain stuff, but you know, I'm not, you know, like, and I know that PC and underscore Dirt's not a huge fan of King's run on the book as of late, even going back to the wedding stuff, probably.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not a fan of Catwoman, generally speaking. So
Right. So I really lost a lot of faith in the story once they, you know, like once we got well past the breaking of the breaking of the promise to wed, I guess, and we went neck deep into the breaking of the bat yet again. That's when I sort of really kind of lost interest in the book, and I'm tenuously holding on to my pull of Batman at this point.
yeah, well, it's one of those things. Like I'm buying it out of momentum,
Right.
you know, because except for a short period of time when I was in college and I had $0, I've been buying Batman nonstop since like 97 or 98.
The book Batman, not,
Or,
not
80, 87 or 88. Yeah,
right.
I've
Just
been
the
buying.
book Batman, not detective.
Yeah, Detective. I've kind of wavered in and out because they've done a lot of really weird stuff with that over the last 10, 12 years.
Right, but Batman is kind of like the main title of the Batman corner.
Yeah, because Detective, a lot of times it goes off where Batman's not the lead character, and it's like, okay, well, I don't like. I'm not buying a Batwoman book. I'm buying Batman. I'm not buying the Bat Family.
Sure.
You know, Tim Drake Clayface team book. You know, I want to read Batman. So I stopped buying it. You know, with that stuff in there. So I kind of come in and out on Detective, but since like 87, 88, 80, I don't remember, somewhere in there, I've been buying Batman nonstop. So it's like, I don't like, it's a, you know, I'm a collector. I collect comics. So it's like, I don't want to not buy it, but oh my gosh, it's getting so hard to justify.
I don't think it's as bad as Chuck Austin on Uncanny.
Why don't
you know, because we were literally like classic materia. And Roddykat, I think, was in on this too.
Yeah.
We were talking about this online. Like, what do we do with this portion of the run that you just can't stand?
You know, and the scary thing was, I didn't read X-Men for a long time. Like, Marvel had that period in the late 90s where everything got terrible. And almost, you know, all of it was almost unreadable. They were trying so hard to ape Image, and it was just so terrible. And so I didn't read X-Men for several years. And then I was in a grocery store, a drugstore, and there was comics on the magazine rack. And I was like, oh, X-Men, I haven't read this in a long time. So I picked it up, bought it. And it just happened to be the issue where you found out that Nightcrawler's dad was Satan.
Azazel, yeah.
And I just read this thing and I was like, what? Like, what is that? Is so dumb. Like, that is the opposite of the whole character.
Yeah,
is to do this thing. Run. And then the next one I tried to read was the one where like Archangel or Angel, I guess he was at the time, and like some 14-year-old girl are like doing it in the sky while mom is watching.
Right, that was Paige Guthrie. That was Cannonball's sister.
And I was like, I'm done with this book.
Yep.
Like, I'm done. Like, no need to read this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, memory. Shout out to Classic Materia for bringing Chuck Austin again.
Man. But anyway, but the same with this Batman story. It's like, okay, like one, I'm a huge Captain Atom fan, so they just straight punked him out in this book.
Oh,
like,
yes.
Okay, that was bad booking to begin with there.
Oh, you're not gonna.
There's a wrestling reference.
And then and I like, but and also the Thomas Wayne thing makes absolutely no sense. Like, it makes absolutely zero sense, because the whole point of the character was that he didn't want his son to be Batman so that his son could have a normal life, because Thomas went through all of that after Bruce died in his timeline.
Right.
So somehow that justifies the character trying to break Batman and destroy him and possibly kill him in order to get him to stop being, like, it became more about like, I just want to stop Batman, as opposed to having like this motivation, like, I want to save my son, you know? And it's just because, and 3 issues ago, it was a whole issue of the two of them wandering through the desert. And then you open up the next issue and it's like, they're out of the desert.
Yep.
How did they get out? We don't know. They're in separate places. How'd they get there? We don't know. The whole world has just kind of moved on. Like, it skipped time. Like, what?
Right.
What happened? We don't know.
Yeah, we are neck deep into City of Bane at this point.
And City of Bane just feels like they've done this story before. Like, the villains took over and not necessarily like as a Batman story, but just in general. Like the villains take over and they run everything, and there's no crime and everything, but that's because if you step out of line, you're going to be killed. Okay, well, like, all right, can we do something interesting with it, maybe, or different? And no, doesn't seem like it'd be interesting as for the build up if maybe some of the heroes were like, you know what, I am tired of, like Red Hood. It would make sense. His friend just died in Heroes in Crisis. It would make sense if he was like, hey, you know what, I'm in on this because I'm tired of seeing people die for no reason. So let's kill the villains. And if it's the villains who die, then who cares? That would make sense. That'd be interesting. That's a great way to draw a Bat family character into it. We don't get any of that.
Right. Just as an aside, circling back to Justice League, Red Hood is actually on the list of people who were given that offer by Lex Luthor.
It actually happened in the end of the last issue.
Okay.
Is Luthor, one of the drones shows up and he says, okay, I'm listening, I'm interested. And then it goes off. So you don't actually see him accept, but
gotcha.
There is something going on there.
So it's worth noting at this point that as should be obvious at this point, there's a lot of Day of the Villain tie-in books this week. I think that started last week, but regardless. And I know one of them will be at the very least mentioned, but there's a few of them out this week. But until we get to that point, let us move on if we're done with that.
Yep.
Oh, wait, I will say this. The artwork in Batman is still spectacular.
Is it Tony Daniel this month?
It's, I just remember it being very pretty. Let's see. Who is it? Yes, Tony Daniel. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, it looks nice.
Right.
It's back to X-Men in the mid-90s, where even though the stories were terrible, it had great artwork.
Yeah, poor Captain Atom. That really sucked.
That makes no sense.
Actually, and I was going to say, yeah, you really won't like what happened to him in Deceased, but hey.
Yeah, but Deceased doesn't matter. So.
I mean, point, but still. Agents of Atlas, #1. I know Agent 70 and I both read this one.
Yes. So, scrolling up to my notes. So, yeah, I thought this was a solid start to the latest Agents of Atlas miniseries. I thought the premise is quirky, but it's timely. It's actually a different riff on Greg Pak's concept for Ronin Island, which is also out this week. And you can describe the concept a little bit more in detail.
Nah.
I mean, at the end of the day, what it is just very quickly, it's a bridge sort of between various Asian like primary Asian cities and creating a kind of place where they can all intersect called Pan.
Right. Imagine Battle World except for without the fighting, but just doorways to each real world place instead of like actual lands coming together.
That is not a good selling point.
Well,
what's funny about it is it depends on how you read it, because the map kind of helps you get a sense of how that is a selling point, because it provides, like literally a hop, skip, and a jump to go from one side of the world to the other, and everyone looks at it in different ways. Like Amadeus really looks at it from kind of the classic way, and everyone, and I forget which character. I think it was Silk is like, wow, that's actually really cool.
Right.
And obviously there's a darker side to this that we're going to explore in the rest of the series.
And that's where Amadeus is pretty much, this is a trap, something's not right here.
Right.
The whole way through. But yeah, this is the weirder thing. It's I'm trying to think of the parallel of the guy who's behind it. You can say like a Facebook / Steve Jobsian type of person, but younger, who's kind of come along and gives this idea and just says, hey, for 24 hours you can walk some under these things, but after that 24 hours everybody goes back to where they were. But and if you really like what you're seeing here, you can pay for this subscription, or actually more like, I guess, video games is probably a closer parallel to part of it. It's like, hey, you can get the subscription to this thing to where you could do this all the time. And again, Amadeus is like, okay, this is all the big trap.
Right. And it also seems to help to know a little bit about the history of the Atlas Foundation, but some of it is filled in, in some of the notes that you can see at the beginning of the issue. I think the characters that you see at the end of the first story are better explained in the backup story, which fills us all in on where the previous iteration of Agents of Atlas are.
Right, and I'm not sure if it was that because it maybe it read like it was in the past for me, but that can't be like now, could it? Like we know where Gorilla Man is and all this, but the rest of those haven't been seen since. Actually, there's been a couple of events since they've been seen.
It's hard to say.
So yeah, I'm not sure.
It's hard to say.
And even I think Jimmy Woo does show up in this one as he does at the end of the first story, and no really telling the timeline of it.
Right, because just as a quick aside before we move on, continuity this week in particular was not a strong suit in some of the Marvel books.
Yeah, fair.
And we'll get to some of that, maybe even in rapid fire as we hit some of these books.
Yeah, so I guess as an addition to this, you want to go ahead and hit Aero number 2 while we're down that line?
Sure. So my notes on this are just when you think that Aero is kind of a souped up planeteer, wind. She shows you something. She actually does show you something. So like a different manipulation of the power of wind, and it's actually pretty cool. I actually like this book as a whole. I don't know if I don't think PC_Dirt is reading this, and for those of you out there who aren't picking up this book or Swordmaster, the first half of this book is a story that had been presented outside of Marvel continuity in Asia, and Greg Pak is adapting it for US audiences. And in conjunction with that, there's a backup story that's original for all audiences, and that is a story about Aero and Wave's actual origin, or part of her origin story. And reading that reading the two together really makes this book worth the time, because it's actually really well done. So, like I said, I was critical of the character because of the power set, but I really liked what they did with what they did with the character. And just very quickly, it kind of sucks not having the original source material to compare it to, but I'm willing to let it ride and let's see where this goes
until we find said source that's been translated.
Right.
Yeah, there's really nothing much else to add to that, except for it still reads like I said it did the last time we talked about it, and which is not a bad thing. So it's pretty cool read. Next up, did anybody read Future Foundation?
I did.
All right. Well, Future Foundation.
Here's one continuity error.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, that's probably arguably there's probably a couple of them in here. So yeah, Future Foundation is what we thought were in the multiverse I guess their mission is basically to go out in the multiverse and find the pieces of Molecule Man and put them back together again so they can bring them home.
Right, like Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah. Which I suspect we are finding one of those pieces in a Horcrux. For you fans with that, I don't know if that plays or not. But it seems like it does from what the character that's introduced in this is not. But we basically have an undercover mission where one part of Future Foundation, aka Julie Power, aka one of the Power Pack, who's apparently grown up, is undercover trying to find this person in the prison, and the rest of the team is going to break her out at a given time. You know how that usually goes. And this book was kind of sort of losing me up until like halfway in for some strange reason. Because like, all right, it's Future Rangers. It's a bunch of smart kids, that Fantastic Four found, and they're doing a thing. Yandu being here was still a thing that still doesn't. So I'm like, okay, wait. So clearly they're not in the multiverse like they said it was, but I guess one of the pieces could be on this Prime or this prime piece of the multiverse. Regardless, put that aside. The jailbreak happens, and they also come across a villain who's been in some other stuff a good bit lately. If you know anything about the Fantastic Four, and they're in any villains that have been wreaking havoc in the Marvel Universe in other places, they show up. Yeah, that's pretty much the brunt of the issue. And like I said, it wasn't until halfway through the issue to where I was like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of digging on this, especially like right before you get to certain characters, kind of like, hey, they have a page of story where they're doing thing, and then kind of come to grips with where they are. That's when it started to kind of hit for me. So I was like, all right, I would check this book out.
I gotcha. All right. I don't know if you got another book you want to throw out there. You want to get to rapid fire since we got a lot of books to go through.
Yeah, we do. You got another one you want to pop out for?
No, I mean, I want to save PC underscore. There are too many spoilers on Immortal Hulk.
Well, no, but I'm asking him for if he had anything he wanted to.
Well, I can mute my headphones for a minute when you talk about Hulk. I mean,
we're not gonna spoil it.
Yeah,
but I mean, it'll be a while before I get caught up to it anyway. So
sure. But
if you want, I'll spin it up.
Yeah, because mine's just gonna be fast.
Yeah, okay. I'll spin it up. All right, here we go.
Oh no. Rapid fire, folks. Who wants to go first?
I'll get mine out of the way. Let me get mine out of the way because there was nothing this week that I really liked, but the lesser, I guess, of all the evils is going to be Beserker Unleashed #1. It's at least interesting. It's a decent premise. The problem is that the entire issue is for the setup that they give away on the front cover. So this first issue is just kind of like okay.
Wait, this is the Diodato book, right?
This is Jeff Lemire and Diodato. It's basically Conan gets brought into modern times,
right?
Time warp and comes to the modern era. And I was like, cool, like that's interesting. And they did a Mike Mignola variant cover, so I grabbed that variant cover. So I was kind of excited to read it. I was like, I like Jeff Lemire, like this is interesting. I like the idea of the premise, but it takes till literally like the last 3 pages, that he finally makes it to the modern era. It's like that's the whole point of the story. Like, could we not have gotten there a little quicker?
Wait, Conan?
Do what?
Is it actually Conan?
No. It's Beserker. It's a
right. This is like a creator-owned book.
I was about to say. Okay, gotcha.
But I mean that's exactly what it is.
Sure, the parallel.
And the other problem is when he's in the past, he's speaking. He's just talking, and then when he comes to the future, when he talks, it's in brackets, and he can't understand the modern people, and they don't understand him. Obviously, so whatever. But the problem is when he's in the past and he's talking, it's like they're dropping F-bombs, and they're like all these anachronisms are coming up, and it's just like I understand you don't want to write everything in like New King James Version, whatever. But at the same time, it's like it's a little. It takes you out of it a little bit when it's like this great barbarian warrior, and he's like, "I'm gonna rip your effing face off," and you're just like, "Come on."
Right.
It's just a little.
It makes you miss the Shakespearean Thor.
Yeah, a little bit. And like I said, I understand. You don't want to sit there and type out like all of these. Thy will find thyself in the whatever. So I get it, but at the same time, it's just a little like takes you right out of it, and then. Again, it's the whole issue just builds up to finally at the end, he's like looking through the trees and he sees a giant skyscraper and he's like, oh my gosh, whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's the cover. Like that's the moment we're waiting. It's like watching Soylent Green, waiting for him to say Soylent Green is people. Like it's the last line of the movie. It's like, could we not have worked this story a little faster? So anyway,
quick question. His love for you is like Beserker.
I'm not singing any of the words from that song.
Come on, man. You can't not do it.
My love for you is ticking clock, Beserker. But that's as far as I'll go on this show.
Right. Good enough.
PG-13. This is a hard PG-13 show.
Is it? Okay.
But then the other book I read was the Sinestro Year of the Villain, and that was just dumb. Like,
Oh
that was
yeah.
one-
Oh my gosh.
it tried to be clever and it tries to be deep, but it tries to be clever and deep with what I call sitcom logic, where it tries so hard to do like this big philosophical thing, but wrap it up neatly by the end of the issue. You know, it's like Sinestro has to deal with this civilization and try to teach them that the thing that they work so hard for isn't worth it. So all the people give up on it, but then they become like these beatniks and hippies, and they start protesting. And then he turns the old ones against the young ones, and then like, and it just reeked of like this hollow, almost like after school special. Like, it tries too hard to make the point, and it tries to be too clever. Like, hey, look what we're doing. We're doing this. You know, old people and young people don't get along, and so we're going to throw it in there. But it all happens in like the span of like a page and a half, because, you know, it's a one-shot special. It's not an ongoing or anything. So it's not like Sinestro is subtly manipulating. It's just like, boom, and then the story's over. And it's like, okay, well, I guess stuff happened. But then you get to the end, and it's like, well, okay, glad I spent time reading that, because now, like, okay, we're here.
Gotcha.
So it's just one of those things where if you weren't planning on reading all of them, obviously skip this one. If you're reading the Green Lantern books, doesn't tie in, skip it. The only thing is, one character that appears in here will probably show up again at some point down the line, but I'm guessing he'll show up to die. So this book really just fell flat, and so
Gotcha.
yeah. So Beserker Unleashed is going to be my click of the week, just because it's kind of it was disappointing because it didn't get there any faster.
I gotcha.
But at least it wasn't like a failure in terms of storytelling like some of these other books were.
Gotcha.
Alrighty then. Well, you, Agent 70, you go, because we got a lot of books in common.
Right, and we'll just tag team. Yeah, we'll tag team off the books. All right, Absolute Carnage #1. Did you read that?
Nope.
All right, so very quickly, it's about what I expected. You can definitely tell that Ryan Stegman had some time to put some work into the art in this issue. It's an event that revolves around Carnage, so you definitely know which two characters are going to be involved. It's not even a spoiler saying that both Venom and Spider-Man are heavily involved in this issue. So it's about what I expected to see. I'm probably not going to be collecting this in physical form, but I will likely be reading along with everyone else. Black Cat #3. I think we both read this.
This is fun. I like this.
So Bats the Ghost Dog needs a copy of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe so he can tell the difference between silver-haired females.
So Black Cat's doing a heist in the Sanctum Sanctorium, and he's not home, but she also brings this magic person who is an ex-villain of Stevens, which that was rife for problems, and problems showed up. And we have bats, so that's always a treat.
Right. And someone asked me if I was enjoying this because they told me they weren't, and I said, look, it's not meant to be the most dramatic book. Sometimes you just need a fun heist caper in your life.
Fair.
And that's what this book is.
Yeah, and their next one should be equally as fun if they do it right.
Right.
Since they're going to some street.
Right. Right. Where there's people that play nasty pranks. Leave it at that.
Yes.
Champions #8. I don't have that much to say about this book other than it's about time they resolved the Sam Alexander thing, sort of.
Really?
They didn't even completely resolve it.
Well, I feel like I suspected it should have taken longer than this. It's like there's like, oh, you know what? Let's just get this over with. They just rushed it.
I kind of like that because it had been dragging on for a while.
I suppose. Well, yeah.
They had gone out into space and had to come back.
Well, yeah, but he was gone from the book from when, and then he just comes back in the next issue. Oh, by the way, here you go. Problem solved. It's like that's what I meant by it being like this seemed kind of quick. You think they was like he's on Earth, but no, just send him somewhere else and something else happens. But but yeah, at the same time, that's probably as good as over with.
Right. Next for me is Daredevil number 8. I don't think you read this.
Nope.
Dirt, are you up to date on Daredevil, or are you a lot behind?
Let's see, what issue is this?
Number 8.
No, this is number 9.
Oh, number 9. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a typo on my part.
I just got done with the first arc.
Okay, so you understand the premise though, in that
the last one I got was he gave up on the
right. Matt's not in the suit. Right. That's the
last thing I read.
That's what I wanted to establish. There's still some. I'm trying to find the best way to put it for everyone else. There's still some trepidation on Matt's part about what he wants to do with his life. The book is titled Daredevil, though, so we're not, we'll see how long this lasts. But the very first, let's see how many pages this is. This is a good 1, 2, 3. The very first 3 pages of the book I thought were the most compelling reading I've had in a while for a Daredevil book, because it's actually a conversation between Matt and Reed Richards over chess in a park in Manhattan, and it's a pretty deep conversation for all of 3 pages, and it's not something that you expect to see with Reed Richards, but at the same time, it's a Daredevil book, so you can kind of expect what direction that conversation's going in. Not to spoil everything, but if you put 2 and 2 together in a Daredevil book, this type of conversation is going to come up.
All I know is that if they're playing chess in the park, I want a homeless dude to come up and beat Reed Richards. Like one of those hustler dudes who come up and they're just like boom, 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 check.
So it's cool because it's I think it's a chess board for a blind player, because it has pegs in the bottom of the pieces so that they don't shift around. I also wanted to note that at the end of the issue, Matt is definitely going to have something to confess the next time he's in church. So listen, this is a slow burn, but a lot of these issues definitely have something to say, and kind of help lead us on the path to what I hope is eventually Matt Murdock putting the suit back on. Next up is Immortal Hulk number 22. I'm not going to spoil it. All I have to say is this is still a must read, and the Hulk and company finally get a chance to take the fight back to where it's coming from.
And so does the Gamma Flight.
Yes. Invisible Woman number 2. I'm having a lot of fun with this read.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it.
And it's exactly what you would expect from a rusty secret agent who still has some tricks up her sleeve. I especially like the whole drinking game scenario. I really like that. That was very well done. Yeah,
Natasha was quite impressed before that even happened, and it was like, all right, then there's more to you than just being a big public figure.
Well, like a earth-saving superhero, like literally one of the biggest cogs in the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. So. Yeah, no, this was pretty cool.
All right, you're up.
Okay. Let's see. Star Wars 70. All 3 teams are still doing their thing. Han and Leia are pretending to be married, which there's irony there. But they meet up again with her ex, who apparently is Batman without the gadgets, who's been following them around, and they hit a snag with that. Chewbacca and C-3PO kind of get chased by the Empire when they're trying to blow up their planet, but the snag is that these rock people that they come across kind of put a hitch in it, and they take C-3PO. And then Luke meets up with this woman who's slightly kind of Dr. Aphra-ish in a way. It's kind of roguish, but she seems to know something about the Force, and him and the state wants to really, really know and be still as gullible as he is. And yeah, they start to have an adventure. I had this written down. Sensational Spider-Man Self-Improvement number 1. So this is, the premise on this, I guess, is interesting. So apparently this was a a fan-made idea that never got published, but Peter David is and crew are given the treatment to, and it's a big what if, because it's like, what if Spidey got a version of the black suit before he goes to Secret Wars?
Right. It's actually the inside story was that this was a pitch that a fan sent into Marvel, and there's some dispute about whether or not the people that were behind Secret Wars actually read this and incorporated it into Secret Wars. And now, several years later, just lots of years later, they decided to do a little bit here.
Right, and coincidentally, this suit could be similar. Is kind of similar to that black suit, except for it has more in common than the Iron Spider suit, aka of the movie version, recent movie versions, than the Secret Wars version.
Right, and the color scheme, obviously, it's only slightly different from the symbiote suit,
Miles's suit, or Miles's coloring. And then there's a backup story, which basically it's, hey, Spider-Man's origin story. It kind of comes back to him in flashbacks because dealing with this other person who was going through a similar thing, and he tries to deal with that. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, there's some old school art on that with Ron Frenz on pencils and Sal Buscema on ink. So I was like, wow, it's actually really solid looking.
Yeah, it was a nice throwback look. I appreciated it. Transformers, Ghostbusters, number 3. Are you planning on reading this, Dirt?
No. I'm waiting for the next Ghostbusters movie to see if it redeems the line.
Oh, anyway. So this is the Ghostbusters Prime universe, and in this universe, so just a quick rundown of the past books. Cybertron, well, the war on Cybertron happens. The Autobots leave Earth. The Decepticons stay. Gozer the Traveler visits Cybertron, and it doesn't end up the same way that the Ghostbusters movie does. So cut back to the Autobots. They somehow find Earth, and there's one bot that they have whose name is suspiciously similar to what the Ghostbusters drive around in, but it's a longer version. Ends up being the one to go to Earth. He meets up with the Ghostbusters. He takes the form of the Ecto-1. Starscream's ghost pops up, and with Starscream's ghost, also a set of one-off villains from like season 3 of Transformers in the Kremzeek, and that ends up being a whole thing with them. Well, in this issue, Optimus Prime gets word from Ectotron, as he's now named because his name was way longer than that, and decides to come to Earth. He hides out while the Ectotron and the Ghostbusters are on a job. They get back. He's all messed up with graffiti and whatnot, and gets the size ears like, you need to try. You need to blend in a little bit more. Which the cover suggests that the Optimus Prime Ghostbusters figure that is now out for $150. That doesn't show up in this book, but I suspect we might see that one. But like I said, at the end of it, and Starscream goes missing because the Ghostbusters had him trapped after this at this issue, or during the course of this mission, because Peter Venkman was like, "Hey, I know what you're doing, but I know the type of person you are, so we're just gonna put you on ice for a little bit," and then he ends up escaping. So, and then like I said, Prime meets up with the rest of them, and they talk about what happens. Transformers number 10. A lot of exposition, no real action. The Senate's meeting, they come to an impasse. Basically, there's a lot of intrigues or some likes supposedly happen because of the other thing that's been going on with the murder investigation and the supposed bad guys in this. And then I guess the president, whoever the ruler of Cybertron, whoever comes back at the end of the book, saying he's going to bust some heads or something. Not much on that. And finally, Deceased number 4. So things tend, as I might say, things tend to escalate as the hammer comes down for the wrong set of nails, and more people get infested, who infects more people, and everybody that's gathered on the Daily Planet try to try to get up a plan. For some strange reason, the cause of this outbreak, or part of the cause, I should say, is back in Cyborg, because I thought he got destroyed in the first issue, but I guess not. But he's back and starting to explain what's going on, but not his part in it. And then Damon ends up finding out about his pops from Alfred. So, and that's it for me.
All right, so clicks of the week.
I see what you're doing there, and it is continuously funny. And that's a little inside baseball that I won't get into. But we have Tim's pick for click of the week, while the other folks think of theirs if they don't already have it. House of X #2. He doesn't necessarily give a reason why, but if you follow him on Twitter, you can see some things he's already said about it.
Yeah, I was about to say PCN_Dirt already named his click of the week as Beserker Unleashed #1. So that leaves the two of us.
I didn't know you were serious about that, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, because everything else I read was garbage. So.
Oh no. Shots fired, man. Just shots fired.
Cool. All right, so
I like how I just got shot by an Animal Crossing character.
Dun. Anyway, you got yours?
I'm still thinking.
Okay, well, fine then.
Still thinking.
This part of the show is always amusing for the folks I know.
Right.
Actually, the thing that called out to me is like Invisible Woman 2 Future Foundation ended up kind of redeeming itself.
I'm really in between Immortal Hulk #22 and House of X #2.
You know what? Black Cat #3. That was really fun. I liked it.
I think I'm going to go with I think I'm going to back Tim on this. House of X #2.
Okay, when in doubt. All right, folks, and I guess that brings us to the part of the show where we 1 get into an ad, 2 get into news, and 3, but most importantly, I guess, say goodbye to one PCN_Dirt.
Yay! Yay!
Take it easy, Dirt. Hopefully the next show that you're able to get on, you'll have some better books to talk about.
I was kind of looking at some of the stuff that's coming up next week, because we do have a few books that have already filtered in, and Gwenpool Strikes Back I'm going to have to read, because that's my son's favorite comic character of all time. And that may restore the character and her powers. Punisher Kill Crew is there, so that could be interesting. And then we also have the Silver Surfer Prodigal Son. So,
are you reading Black?
Yeah, as we're gonna.
I'm not. I can't get past that artwork.
Yeah, it's kind of trippy.
The second issue is nowhere near as trippy as the first one.
It's a little cleaner, definitely.
Yeah.
So
I would suggest that you try to give it another shot.
I don't know. I'll skim it maybe and see what sticks.
That may or may not go anywhere either, but it is what it is for right now. I was gonna ask real quick though. Superior Spider-Man. Have you read recent issues of that?
No.
Okay.
No, actually, I was buying that for my son for a while, because he was getting all the Spider-Verse and the tie-in stuff, but he eventually just kind of gave up on it. He was like, "Nah, it's not that interesting anymore." He's like, it doesn't tie into the other Spider-Verse stuff really, and so it's like, okay.
Because I'm about to say the West Coast Avengers, or the current version of the West Coast Avengers, show up in Gwenpool's and that, but I don't know if that was still a interesting.
Yeah, but he actually dropped that book because they took away her powers, so she was just like a regular person. And then he was just like, I don't really care about any of these other people on the team. I was like, okay. So yeah, I did get him Future Foundation #1. He does like Power Pack, so I got him the Future Foundation 1, but I haven't talked to him about it yet. What he thought about it? But
sure.
I figured, we'll try it. It's a #1. Again, see what sticks. Force feed him some comics and see if anything holds. But I don't know, the current state of comics, it's kind of hard.
Oh, stop it. There's good stuff out there.
Yeah, I don't know though if House of X and Powers of 10 are the best places to start though.
Definitely not.
I don't
Yeah.
think so. That's a tough read
But
for like
as
someone
you-
who's like borderline junior high school, right?
No. He's not reading those.
No, but I'm just saying that would be a tough read.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, and he wouldn't care about the characters, so
right.
Yeah, that does
I mean,
matter.
Future Foundation at least has a couple Power Pack characters, so he cares about those. But
Right.
um,
Somebody
yeah,
does.
but like you said, at least those books are better than the Chuck Austin run.
Oh no,
Are.
they are. I can't even front.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna play with that. Chuck Austin. Ugh.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway,
I shudder when I have to file my books and have to touch those books and move them aside. Dirt knows what I'm talking about. Roddykat knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You gotta move the books around to file them, you know?
In the last 2 years, I started getting rid of comics just to free up space.
Sure.
The store that I used to work, I ended up selling 23 short boxes of comics. And then another store in town, they were like, hey, we need more back issues. If you got more back issues, I'm like, yeah, I've got more stuff because I've been filtering through. And I sold him 13 short boxes of stuff. So I've whittled my collection way down. And then even now I'm sorting everything, organizing, putting them all in order, and I'm doing it by stack. So this whole stack is alphabetized together. Now this whole stack is alphabetized, and I have to alphabetize those two stacks together, then go to the next row of boxes and alphabetize, and then alphabetize those in. And it's like, as I'm going through again, I'm like, there's more of these books. I'm never going to read Batman, Superman again. The crossover series from when the whole New 52 kicked off. Like, I'm never going to read Superman, Wonder Woman again. I'm never going to read, most of these books. I'm like, I should just get rid of this stuff. And the stuff I'm holding on to is all the 60s, 70s, 80s stuff I have, and a couple books from the 90s. Sure. Yeah, and most of the rest of the stuff, it's just like, It's like Eddie and the Cruisers. He's talking about music nowadays. It's all just like bed sheets. Like, yep, that's comics today. Bed sheets. There you go. That's my being deep in my sitcom logic.
Oh no.
All right, and with that, I bid you adieu.
Take care.
Take it easy, Dirt. And our first And to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. Ka-ching! Now we get into the news. Do-do-do-do.
Do-do-do. Do-do-do.
to do more than just be in front of a green screen all day want to do. Like shout out to Chris Evans. This is the direction he wants to go into.
Sure. So yeah, Andy Serkis is the director of Venom 2, and I know a lot of people have been wanting that. And I'm like, I hope it works out as well as people think it will. Like I think people want, and I know he's done some directorial stuff in the past, if I'm not mistaken. So I think, I'm not sure about that. That would be something to check. But regardless, I think people are more wanting that because of his behind the mocap suit experiences more than him being an actual director. Like he knows how to deal with that kind of stuff. But
Sure.
Like I said, it hopefully it works out the way people think it does. Next up, in Avengers Endgame, this really looks like a Spider-Gwen Easter egg. So there was a point where some eagle-eyed person, as people are wont to say, spotted this scene, which if you're watching the video, you can see here, where Peter and Gonki, aka Ned, are back in school. Wait, is that? See, the thing that messes me up, because I could have sworn that scene was from. I know they did a fairly similar scene in Far From Home.
It was Endgame.
Yeah, but I know there was. It doesn't matter. But either way, there was a person that was spotted on the side of Peter and Ned as they were hugging, with a pink backpack, a black and white spider mini dress, and blonde hair, which have made people think that could possibly be Gwen Stacy.
All right, I'll be sure to take a look at that. Although it's pretty, I mean, that's a
little bit of a stretch, but
yeah, it's a bit of a reach,
but not one that's not out of the question.
Sure. Next up, the one popular, because there's a few popular hilarious lines in Endgame almost didn't happen. Apparently, the line from it's apparently at the Voodoo viewing party for Endgame, Kevin Feige revealed Ant-Man's line that, as far as I'm concerned, that's America's ass, was not actually in the movie for a while. And one of the other producers, the executive producer, Louis Esposito, or someone who said, what happened to that funny line about America's ass? So
see, they're beholden to the shareholders. No, I'm just kidding. That's not. I'm sure.
Not exactly, but yeah.
No, I'm just saying some idiot would have said some mess like that. But at the same time, hey, we got a good line regardless of who it was. So yeah, so come to find out that's how that line ended up being in the case. So thank whoever that was who did that. And I'm pretty sure that person's like, hey, if it wasn't because of me, you wouldn't have had that line that people are, quoting.
Exactly.
So can I get some more money, please? Anyway, next up, Captain Marvel's Gemma Chan in talks for Eternals, but not as her MCU character in a report. So yeah, apparently they're trying to get Gemma Chan. I keep saying because I'm thinking something else. Regardless, it doesn't matter. So yeah, she may be in Eternals. She may or may not be out of paint. Though I feel like I feel like it's probably going to be the thing. It was like, no, she's going to be a precursor to her character, her Kree character in
Minerva.
Yeah, which means she will probably be still in the face paint,
possibly,
or in the body paint, possibly, or maybe the same person as a younger, because I mean the Kree are relatively long lived, I think. So, but that's depending on where they set the story. Kind of doubt if that would be the case.
Right. We will see.
And I believe there is ties to the Kree and the Eternals, so possibilities.
James Gunn has confirmed that the final Guardians of the Galaxy Easter egg has been partially discovered. So listen, apparently there's still that one Easter egg that is still out there. People have been looking for it, and there's a Twitter user that has proposed that he's found it, and Gunn has said that that is a partial discovery.
Close, but not enough.
Right.
So yeah, good luck to those people who have that kind of time and energy. And we're not going to go into it, but basically it's something to do with Man-Thing. Next up, Deadpool 3 doesn't have to be R-rated, director says, which has people out there on the internet like, oh no. Which I'm like, I mean, you're right. It kind of doesn't mean it is. It doesn't mean it isn't.
Right.
So, but yeah, apparently the director was talking to somebody and basically put out that little nugget. And
right. And people are probably just up in arms saying, oh, now that it's a Marvel property and a Disney property.
There was definitely some of that. Yes.
Right. So, we'll see where that goes. It doesn't really have to be R because they take PG-13 pretty far.
Pretty much.
All right. Next up, did Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just slyly introduce an astonishing X-Men villain? So I am not up to date on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at all. But apparently they may have introduced a character who, while of a different name, bears an uncanny, no pun intended, resemblance to Ord, a villain introduced in Whedon and Cassidy's astonishing X-Men run.
Yeah. So, but we had no critic pride, so who cares?
Right.
No, I'm joking about that. Yeah, so I'm not up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. either, but I hear some things have been happening.
I may jump on for the last season because I don't know if you have a story in here about who may be guest starring in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the upcoming last season of the show.
If we've not already talked about it, I don't know if I do actually. Anyway.
Oh, okay. If you don't, then I'll just drop it because it's related. Sure. Apparently, there's a rumor that they're going to have Peggy Carter.
Yeah. I did see that news. I didn't put it in the
okay, right. So yeah, so it makes sense to just drop that here. Yeah. That in the next upcoming final season of the show, there's a rumor that they're going to have Peggy Carter do a guest spot.
Which because they're thinking it's gonna have them tie into that and possibly other stuff. So I'm on board with that. Shoot,
that works for me.
Yeah, it works for me.
All right, you got next.
Marvel TV's Runaways and Cloak and Dagger crossing over this December.
Nice. I'm a fan of these shows. You need to catch up if you're not caught up.
Well, while I still have Hulu, yeah, I may possibly do that. And so it's not a surprise that these two particular groups are coming together because they have in the comic books before. So it was only a matter of time before it happens. So yeah. Looks like Runaways third season, and I assume they're going to do what happened between the two groups in the comics to a point, but we'll see how that. I know a couple of people who like both shows, or one.
I like them.
In particular.
I like them both.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely not the target demographic. Let's be real.
Yeah, that's fine. You're a comic fan. Doesn't really matter.
Right, but at the same time, it's just I think they're both well done. They're less overwrought than the Netflix shows were. Obviously, it's a little lighter because they are teens.
Right. Yeah, I was about to say, and it's probably PG-13, if that.
Right. I mean, they're still dealing with adult themes.
Oh, sure.
But it's definitely not as, like I said, overwrought. When I say overwrought, I'm still trying my best to make my way through the last season of Jessica Jones, but it's really hard.
I'm not sure why you're punishing yourself that way, but okay, sure.
For completionist's sake, talk about being a collector, right?
Yeah, that's fair because I can't talk because I plan on doing the same thing. So, so that's fair. But yeah, so right. Good news to fans, but also and I guess hopefully I will definitely try to catch up fairly soon. There's a couple other things I keep saying I want to catch up on, but I'm actually putting some time in to do so I can get some things off my plate.
All right, I got next. ABC is in active talks about bringing another Marvel female superhero to the network. So the broadcaster is working with its Disney sibling on another comic book adaptation. This comes as we just mentioned, as Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is about to finish off its upcoming 7th season.
Mhm.
So it's unclear the character who's being lined up to be adapted for mainstream television, but we shall see.
So, and it's worth noting that there has been a couple of, some would argue, dropped projects in the past that they still hasn't seen the light of day. So I'm not putting credence into this until something else happens, because there was supposed to be the Great Lakes Avengers one, I think, with Squirrel Girl, which I wouldn't be surprised if that was the character they would do this with.
Squirrel Girl, yeah.
Yeah,
Especially if they keep Milana Weintraub as Squirrel Girl.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and this article kind of brings up some other folks that could possibly be the case. Also, there was rumblings of a Daughters of the Dragon thing for, and I think that was probably possibly Netflix, or at least that was what people wanted under the Netflix stuff. But
now that's over and done with.
Yeah, but that may not be outside of the realm of possibilities for this, which I would personally want.
Right, depending on the timing, right? Because of the kind of no compete that they had at the end of the Netflix deal.
And now that I think about it, Simone Missick has another show now, so I don't know if that's what happened, but who knows? Anyway, that's something. Whether we hear anything more about this or not, we'll stay tuned. Next,
you got it.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's biggest nostalgia trip is the original Spider-Man. That's right, folks. Nicholas Hammond, aka well, you have to be of a very certain vintage.
Yes.
The 70s Spider-Man. I loved that show when I was little.
I couldn't get enough of it, but I was always like, why does he only have one web shooter?
Right. And why is it a big ass piece of rope? Like, come on.
I was able to suspend disbelief for the piece of rope.
Well, true,
but I wanted 2 web shooters, even if he only used one. Why couldn't the costume department just slap another one on his other wrist?
Yeah, well, he's right-handed, so that's the only one he was going to ever use, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? No one cares about the no prize for that one. So yeah, apparently Nicholas Hammond is in Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a movie that I for 2 seconds when reading this article thought about watching, but I don't care about Tarantino movies that much anymore.
No, thanks.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm quite good. But yeah, so apparently he's in it, and there may be, yeah, I guess there's a little bit more to it. If you can find the 70s Spider-Man somewhere on YouTube, I know there's a couple of episodes probably out there. Go check that out. It's a treat. Whether it holds up or not is a different story, but it's still a treat.
All right, next up, a video courtesy of Star Wars Kids explores a series of silly Star Wars what ifs. So, with the help of Legos.
Yes.
So, what if Anakin forgot to eat breakfast the day of the pod race? God, what if he became Darth Vader way earlier? So these are the types of things that these videos are going through. So yeah.
I mean, look, a breakfast is the most important meal of the day, as they said. So you never know how many things could have been changed by that one act. We might not have gotten Darth Vader. Anyway, that's whatever. So yeah, check that out if you care. Halo TV adaptation, adds 6 and not 6 from the Blossom show, and not Battlestar Galactica, but 6 folks. And Natasha McElhone, Bokeem Woodbine, because he ain't going out like no punk. Shabana Azmi, Bentley Kalu, Natasha Kozak, and Kate Kennedy all have named roles in the show, and it goes through basically who these folks will be on the show. So good to see Bokeem Woodbine getting work, I guess. I don't know. Next, and looks like most of them are going to be Spartans or something.
Okay. All right. Well, apparently a podcast has been launched where each episode explores one torturous minute of a rewatch of the ill-fated Batman versus Superman movie.
Mind you, most of that is Agent 70's editorialization of the facts, but right.
Oh God, why would you take this on as a podcast idea?
Because people do.
I mean, listen. Oh yeah, listen. One of my favorite podcasts is Binge Mode. You know, I'm not a shill for Binge Mode, but shout out to Binge Mode, part of the Ringer Podcast Network. Mallory Rubin and Jason Concepcion do a fine job of breaking down Harry Potter and Game of Thrones, worthy subjects of podcasts, in-depth podcasts. For crying out loud, why are you doing this for Batman versus Superman per minute?
Yeah, that's
good Lord.
Yeah, well, at least you don't know how long it's going to roundabout is going to be. Well, actually, that's not true either.
That's not true.
Yeah, I know. But there's not much that goes on in a minute in the bulk of that movie that's going to be sustainable for more than 20-30 minutes of a show. But hey, go forth and multiply, I guess. Or no, don't multiply. I will go ahead and put out a suggestion of my own, possibly a better one. The Arkham Files, I believe is the name of it, is the podcast with Brian Ward and Dr. Andrea Ledmende, who basically review and go over Batman the animated series from a psychological standpoint, and it is a dope podcast. I think it's over with now because they finished that and subsequent movies that was along with it. But that was an awesome podcast, and I know they're doing something still now. But you know, I know both of them are doing things in their respective works with DC or whatnot. But all right. If you want to check out a podcast, that's a good one. It's great. Next,
you got this.
Speaking of the Batman, the Batman eyeing Tenet, not Tenant. That's a different person. Star for key role. So this is the Matt Reeves, the Batman. Just might reunite Tenet star Robert Pattinson. Oh, right. He is Batman now, isn't he? And John David Washington, who I believe was in I can't remember what this is. Had to do with the Klan. I can't remember what it was. Either way, it's probably going to say it at the bottom of this. Here you go, Black Klansman. That was what it was.
I didn't want to jump in. I'm like, it's pretty obvious.
But, well, yeah, but I couldn't remember if it was.
The exact title. I understand.
Right. So anyway, so he is in talks to play a role in it. Some folks are saying Lucius Fox. Other folks are saying like Two-Face, Harvey Dent. You know, I mean, there's precedent for that given Billy.
Yeah, I was about to say picking up the mantle from Billy D. Williams.
Yep. But we don't necessarily know who he's in talks for. So could be Scarecrow. I think somebody might have put it out there, but we don't know. Or I think Scarecrow was mentioned and somebody may already have it, one of the two. But regardless, hey, more word on that when we get some confirmation. Next.
All right, next up, Cress Williams has seemingly confirmed that Black Lightning was that a living single reference?
That totally
Good
was.
Lord, we're showing our vintage right there, ladies and gentlemen. Seemingly confirms that Black Lightning will appear in the Aero versus Crisis on Infinite Earths. That's great. Great. Yeah.
It's
great. Whatchamacallit?
It was a matter of time.
Yeah, I was about to say not continuity. Great synergy. Corporate synergy, yes.
Yeah. Especially with Aero going away. And I think Flash might be not far behind it. We don't know. But I mean, it was only a matter of time before that. And I think it has been confirmed since this article that he and a couple other folks from Black Lightning is going to be in the crossover. Because at the time of this, he was just saying it's a possibility, I believe, and it ended up being the truth. So
right. It's been a while since I've seen watched Black Lightning.
Yeah, same here.
Are they in the same universe as either Flash or Arrow?
Nope.
Okay, so they're in the Dakotaverse, basically.
Well, let me phrase that. Unless something happened between the last couple of seasons,
right?
Then they were in a whole separate thing. And I think they had been saying for the longest time they were going to keep it that way, but there were still rumblings of it. The fact that
Right. So that still leaves open the possibility of a crisis event, but not a crossover. I mean, not a city to city crossover in the traditional sense.
Right. I mean, and the Flash, the multiverse has already been opened up in the Flash, and since Supergirl, and I think they went to another version with the last crisis. So it's not like that's off the table. So more than likely, yeah, he'll be brought in because of even if it isn't due to a crisis, they're like, oh yeah, we found this other new universe. So boop, type of situation.
Right. You got next.
Speaking of the crisis on Infinite Earths, the producer actively pursuing Smallville alums, and I want to say they might have gotten somebody, but I'm not sure. But by this time, but yeah, it looks like they, and I know Steve Romero kind of has been out there booking for it. Have been trying to get folks from Smallville, like Tom Welling and the dude who plays Lex, which Michael Rosenbaum.
Rosenbaum, yeah.
Yes, who also plays the Flash, who vocalizes the Flash and Lex Luthor on occasion, or has anyway. So yeah, it might be trying to get them for the crossover, which that would be cool since they're getting all these other people. And it's like, oh yeah, well yeah, they just talk about how they've had other people who've played other roles in Smallville.
Sure.
Have shown up in other forms. So next up,
this is one of those times that I would not play Korath saying who, because Crisis on Infinite Earths Arrowverse crossover has cast Kevin Conroy, the one and only Batman that so many people know as Bruce Wayne of the future,
or
in
that
the 5-part Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Wait, did they actually say he was?
Yeah, it says future Batman, Bruce Wayne from the future.
Okay, so yeah, so it might be Batman Beyond version,
right?
But it's also, if I'm not mistaken, I saw another article saying that don't count on it being a big role. Like it could be just a cameo,
sure,
of sorts. So, we'll see how that happens when that crossover happens this December. But that's cool. Regardless, you can't have Kevin Conroy on and not let him say something. Come on, that's just ridiculous. So anyway, next, Marv Wolfman to co-write Arrow's Crisis on Infinite Earths episode. So yeah, cool. I mean, Guggenheim in them, right? But now we're getting some, like, one would argue legend. Well, one wouldn't argue legend, but he totally is. Marv Wolfman, creator of Teen Titans and a whole bunch of other stuff in DC Universe. Also written for a whole bunch of other cartoons and stuff in the past. You grew up on him, him.
That's right.
So, yeah. So now they're putting a little bit more comic book cred into the Arrow's Crisis on Infinite Earths episode.
Right.
So, cool.
And continuing in the string of CW Arrowverse stories, apparently they're looking to expand. In the wake of the announcement that the Arrow show is ending, CW President Mark Pedowitz said at the Television Critics Association Summer Press Tour that the CW is looking to adapt a new DC Comics property for the 2020-2021 season. Mm-hmm. Although they have not said what exactly the CW is looking at, nor did he give any hints.
I feel like despite them having Legends of Tomorrow, it could be Legion of Superheroes, because they kind of already put some of that in. There's a little bit of that in play on Supergirl, but I could be totally wrong. Maybe it could be Plastic Man for all we know.
Okay.
We don't know. No one knows anything. So, but yeah, it's a thing. Batwoman producer confirms Kate is Jewish, but references in the pilot were cut for some reason.
Okay.
So I guess good to know. Not really much else to say about that.
All right. Next up, Young Justice Outsiders. The end credits tell their own Lynchian story.
Yeah, as in David Lynch, I guess.
Okay. I mean, I've been watching it, so I definitely understand that the end credits have all had little bits here and there to for you to put together. So,
So yeah, which I'm slowly catching up on. I'm almost at the end of season 2, so I'm like almost like I'm a stone, not even a stone's throw. I'm probably an episode away from starting Outsiders. So
Okay,
I'm
cool.
forward to that. But yeah, so that is the thing, and apparently they're going to maybe they're going to stitch together, or maybe it's just people, I don't know, delusions of grandeur. Who knows? But this article basically kind of goes through its own little what it feels about it. Next up, go ahead.
No. This is you.
DC Universe's Harley Quinn cartoon will address abusive Joker relationship. So that's that's going to be a thing. So
All
for
right.
an animated series, that's then they said it's probably more adult in a way. I know I was talking to Dirt, but it's not a surprise to say he didn't like what the thing for it and wasn't interested. But again, like I said, that's not a big surprise. So yeah. So however they're gonna handle that, I hope they do it. Given the nature of that show, I hope they do it in a halfway decent way. I don't know. Anyway, next up.
Netflix shares the trailer for anime documentary Enter the Anime. So since Netflix has kind of built up their anime library, they've been in the midst of producing a documentary on that's meant to better equip potential new anime fans for the greater presence of anime on Netflix. So that's cool.
And well, it would be cool, but I have not. And granted, I haven't seen it for myself because it is out at this point. Because the actual documentary came out a couple days ago on the 5th, which we are recording on the 8th, and there have been not good thoughts about that that particular documentary from people at all. So, but obviously, some things you have to look for yourself if you don't get you. But I've heard a lot of "don't waste your time," and the like. But if you feeling like it, or if you're like me, who just has to, has to know how bad can be sometimes, check it out for yourself. Next up. Oh, so now we're about to go into. What was that?
It's nothing. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know what it was, but okay. Anyway, so now we are going to go into the comic book news section.
No, isn't there spillover?
Oh wait, didn't I already? God damn it! What happened? Oh, hold on. I see what I did. I put this in the wrong place. Dang it. Oh, and this is perfect because yes, because now we get to talk a little bit about something you went to go see.
And I didn't, and I'll talk more about that. I didn't go to see it.
Oh, I
That's
thought
a big spoiler. Well, I'll tell you why I didn't go.
Okay, well
to
first
see
let's bring this up first, and then talk about it.
Sure.
Hobbs and Shaw has the worst Fast and Furious box office opening since 2009.
I wish my sound effects were working full bore because I am shotgunning the hell out of this, just booming it. So yeah, poo on you, Hobbs and Shaw. Good for you. You had the worst Fast and Furious box office opening since 2009. The reason why I did watch this, but I didn't go to see it. Hint, hint.
Okay, I got
wink,
you.
wink.
Yes. No need to further that line, but
right,
okay.
because one Agent _70 wasn't in the mood to help out the box office numbers in any way. And remember, I'm Mr. Petty. I went to Avengers Endgame after the re-release.
Yes, and remember, we don't condone piracy, but sometimes
right.
Just
well,
No.
So that being said, I did watch this turd of a movie, and some people like to look. Everyone knows that you're not getting.
Someone said you previewed it,
right?
For purposes of
for academic review.
Yes,
and I'll tell you that I know people that went to watch it and they enjoyed it because it was just some silly summer fun.
Right.
but I'm a fan of the series. And I appreciate that they were in the wake of Fast and Furious, in the wake of Justin Lin coming back to the series after Tokyo Drift. I appreciate that they tried to weave a longer story arc into the movie and try to weave these things together. And to see what happened in the wake of Fast 6 and Fast 7 and the travesty that was Fate of the Furious, now we've got Hobbs and Shaw, and to see it tank and to see people maybe, just maybe, staying away because they're not happy with the trends in the series, it's kind of heartwarming to me.
Okay, so first off, we need to back up. It had a bad first week opening. Doesn't necessarily mean it tanked. It didn't start out strong though.
Right.
So
and at the end of the day,
up.
People overseas are still going to watch it because it's the
right. Well, yeah, there's that, and people here too, for that matter. But
right, and throw in Statham to boot, and you've got a pretty big star power
for sure,
a pretty big amount of star power in this movie.
Mm-hmm. So that's so, like I said, we're editorializing aside, we still a little, but there was not really. I can't say there was much. Well, actually, I'm kind of surprised that it did as bad as it did, but at the same time, people were going into it knowing that it wasn't the mainline Fast and Furious, and therefore, side stories and as we have found out from Star Wars, side stories tend to sometimes not do well.
Right, because if it's not something that people think they need to know about these side characters, they're more than willing to let it go.
And there are people like Agent 70 who are still looking for justice for Han.
Hashtag justice for Han.
And who's not alone in that, because I've seen some speculation pieces and takes from folks I follow online, and it's kind of amusing.
Sure. And even from cast members themselves.
Right.
Shout out to Michelle Rodriguez.
Right. So, that is a thing that is kind of up in the air. I'm still, I don't know if we talked about my theory on what could happen or should happen, particularly with somebody who wasn't in this movie specifically, but was teased to have a possibility to be possible in this movie, or apparently is not.
Mm-hmm.
That could still play out. We may have already talked about it. We don't need to go into it, but one way or the other, justice for Han should happen. And I think I saw one speculation was like, yeah, there's got to be some reason that somebody was saying, I love this person, by the way, who was like, they would take any dumb reason to get Sun Kang back into the franchise again.
Sure.
I mean, that could be for other reasons of thirst, but still. But at the same time, it's valid. So yeah, that's the thing. But keeping on with the Fast and Furious train and making things worse.
Right. So next up, Fast and Furious 9, we all know has already cast John Cena to be playing a possible spoiler character that was revealed in the Hobbs and Shaw movie. There you go.
Or more importantly,
that works.
Me personally. So yeah, so apparently he's going to be somebody and have a connection to somebody from Hobbs and Shaw movie, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Something that gets brought up there.
Right.
So,
it's kind of it might be the overall big bad.
Right. It's all connected.
Right.
Next up, moving fastly away from that, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, Jadzia Dax's pansexuality is confirmed thanks to Terry Farrell, who was in an interview at Star Trek Las Vegas this past weekend, which happened. I've been seeing a couple of bits from some of the panels there, and it looks like good stuff. I should also go ahead and point out, which if I haven't said before, and what is going on in the background of my house. Anyway, that the Star Trek Deep Space Nine documentary is out there for home consumption, and you should check that out if you are a fan of that series.
Is it on home video or?
Yes, it is. It is also
okay.
But yes, it's on home video also.
It's not on It's not on any of the streaming sites though, right?
It is on one streaming site. It's on Shout Factory's site, but I don't know if they have it anywhere else.
Shout Factory.
Yeah, well, they have a streaming site and they stream stuff that they put out for some of the stuff they put out for free. So if you care about Super Sentai, you can see a bunch of that stuff, or a little bit of Ultraman and some other stuff. But yeah,
Take a look.
But it's over there on that site also. But I don't. Yeah, as far as I know, it's not. I'm not sure if it's anywhere else outside of that.
Okay.
And physical. Anyway.
All right. Next up, Star Trek Discovery Season 3 will introduce a new captain. So let's see. So there's been a lot of turnover on the Star Trek Discovery show in terms of who plays the captain, and there's going to be a new one in the next season. So all of you people on CBS All Access, let me know who the new captain is.
Yes, while you're waiting for Picard to happen sometime next year.
Right.
So yeah, I guess it doesn't really say here. And there's going along with the time jump and whatnot, but we'll get to that when it happens. The Matrix is returning to theaters to celebrate its 20th anniversary. And of course, you can't say that without saying, whoa.
I know Kung Fu.
Yeah, right. So, and this article kind of goes into that, and also some speculation as to why it's coming back into theaters now, as opposed to the actual anniversary, March 31st. And again, there's a hot take in speculation on that. But regardless, who cares? It's The Matrix. It's a dope movie. It'll be screened in 135 Dolby Cinema AMC theaters around the country from August 30th to September 5th. So if you get a chance, I have never seen The Matrix in the theaters.
I did not either. I watched the two sequels in the theaters, but I watched the original at home.
In fact, that was the first DVD I ever bought. Before I even had a DVD player. I was like, I clearly want this movie. And a matter of fact, because I ended up buying a DVD player for a PC, and I didn't have a console that at the time that did yet.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, clearly I want this movie, so I have to have it, and bought it. And so when I finally got one, that was what I watched a couple of different times.
That works.
Yeah.
Last in the cinematic news. Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the writers behind Into the Spider-Verse, are developing a mysterious live-action Marvel TV universe. So,
one, but still.
So they're developing a handful of live-action shows using Sony's Marvel characters, of which there are like 900 characters. Oh, with the Sony characters, though.
And I believe this is not the only one, because I saw another article that said there's probably a couple of more, which gives credence to something that they disavowed of probably late last year, and saying that they didn't know of any other projects. I think more specifically Spider-Verse related projects that was going to be happening at the time, but apparently this is a project with Marvel, and that's not necessarily saying that what they said wasn't the case then is still not the case now. So from them, and we don't know where it's going to be, but most likely Disney Plus. Oh, you know what? I think totally forgot to put that news in about Disney Plus. But since we're
about the bundle.
Yes, so Disney Plus, it was already a deal for a lot of people, but now they've sweetened the pot, some would argue, by adding Hulu and ESPN into the mix for a price of $12.99, which still makes it cheaper than Netflix, by the way.
Right, and you're getting a lot of content there for people who are cord cutters. So
right. Sports lovers who
right, exactly. Especially if you're interested in catching up on television, it makes Hulu very attractive. I don't necessarily think it makes ESPN Plus all that attractive, although they are doing more live streaming of sporting events
right
on ESPN Plus. I think it makes Hulu more attractive.
True, and Hulu's got and somebody asked this question and still haven't gotten a question answer to the question whether Hulu's like live streaming part is along with this, or is that going to be another separate piece? Because Hulu's got their live thing, but no word. There's been no word as to whether that's a part of this or not.
Right.
So yeah, that's the thing that happens. That's going to happen. If I wasn't already interested, it was already. This is giving me a slight bit more. Next up.
All right, so we're in comic book news.
Yes, we are. First up, Star Trek Away Mission VR will grant you the opportunity to be immersively killed off like a red shirt.
Wow, that's just morbid.
Well, hey, that's although it's classically spoken is not always true, because if you think the senior staff of TNG was in red, but that's neither here nor there. But regardless, hey, there's a VR thing coming, Star Trek related. It is unfortunately not the canceled fan one that was really cool, but got taken down by CBS's massive lawyerage. But CBS Interactive and Sandbox VR has announced Star Trek Discovery Away Mission, a new group-based virtual reality experience. The caveat is it is not for home consumption. It is going to be in Sandbox locations. I guess Sandbox VR is an extra place across the U.S. this fall, and eventually locations in Asia. So this was decent news, but it's less decent news because I don't think none of that is near me. So yeah, okay. And there's been there's at least one Star Trek Discovery person who's doing voice work for it, who's also done voice work for Star Trek Online also. So cool. Have fun. All right. How it is.
All right, in more Star Trek news, announced that Star Trek Las Vegas recently, 2 Picard prequels will begin paving the way for CBS All Access's streaming service series starting this fall. Writer Mike Johnson and Picard producer Kirsten Bayer will kick off Picard Prequelitis with Star Trek Picard Countdown, a 3-part comic series from IDW, beginning this November. And and that's apparently there's going to be a novel as well.
Yeah. Now the comic book's not a surprise because there are Star Trek comic books like left and right. Well, at least frequently enough. I shouldn't say left and right, but so that's not a surprise. The novel, yeah, that shouldn't be a surprise either, but because there's always been Star Trek novels in the past with stuff. So cool. Oh, right. So, well, we can skip that now because it's past. But I was going to say in clickbait section, which I put in the wrong place again, there's a video of a Japanese man in a tuxedo slowly transforming that big Unicron toy that we talked about, I think, last week or week before last.
Really?
Yes. That's in the clickbait section. So go check that out at your leisure. But next up, we have... for you Star Wars fans, not Trek. I'm loving it. Wait, I want to make sure this is it because I could have mismoved something. Yeah, Star Wars, the Black Series Boba Fett helmet is for sale or for pre-order at Entertainment Earth. It is a life-size version of Boba Fett's classic helmet. Yes, you can put your big head in it or some size head in it.
This is along the lines of those Marvel Legends kind of cosplay level replicas, which is cool. No, when because I think it makes sense that they would make something Star Wars-esque in that vein. They've already done a good number of props from the MCU, like Ant-Man's helmet, Iron Man's helmet, Black Panther's helmet. So it makes perfect sense that they would do Boba Fett's as well.
Yeah, and obviously, well, that's the cynic in me saying that this is to cut off those folks who DIY it themselves and are looking for, But that doesn't stop those people. And this is for the other people who don't have that kind of skill and want to use that help for cosplay.
Exactly, and these are not cheap. You know, these are generally at least $100.
Yeah, this one's 120 according to the price, which is shipping May 2020.
Yeah, because the I have the Marvel Legends Mjolnir and the Cap Shield, the not the metal one. The metal one's more expensive. I have the plastic one, which is $100. It's still a great piece, though. Get compliments on it, and like the one time I brought it to Comic-Con, got lots of compliments and people asking, "Hey, where'd you get that?"
Right. So yeah, and I think this is just in time for the Mandalorian. I want to say because I think that starts next year. But hey, it's out there, folks. Have at it. Oh, dang it. Next one.
Wait, is this mine?
Yes.
Yeah. Deadpool gets his own Build-A-Bears. Oy. So apparently the Build-A-Bear company is doing a Deadpool as well. They're doing a Build-A-Bear as Deadpool.
Mm-hmm.
So yay. So it's it's a wacky, zany, and mouthy hero that's a must-have for your collection. Good job, Build-A-Bear.
Yeah, I guess I assume it's going to have I don't know if it says here, and it really doesn't matter, but whether it's going to have, because I know they have some Build-A-Bears with voices now to a point, but I don't know if this one's going to be. Doesn't matter. That's the thing if you care for it. Fraser Irving, Ramon Perez, Cian Tormey joined Valkyrie, Jane Foster. So those three artists have signed on to draw portions of September 18th Valkyrie Jane Foster #3 along series artist Kafu.
Is he already behind, or is this going to?
No, I suspect it's probably an intentional.
Is this going to be like a time thing?
Maybe.
Yeah. Because often that's when we see a lot of artists on one book when there are different time periods being portrayed.
Right. But no reason has been given as to why that's going on. But yeah, we can. I think it's a fairly safe to say that's probably going to be the case.
Gotcha. All right. I'm glad I got this next one. Because I didn't realize this when I read the article. I was like, oh my god, they did.
And I was wondering, like, why didn't you bring this up?
Because it's an Easter egg in the book itself. And remember, I had something to say about Kubert's art as well. Like, I feel I definitely felt like Kubert's art is on the looser side, and the color artist that's kind of doubling as an inker isn't really helping. So that's probably why I didn't notice this as I maybe would have if it was a little sharper. But it's obviously it's meant to be in the background. It's meant for someone who's like really, really studying the page to see it. So apparently Captain America's worst movie just became Marvel canon, and we are talking about the what is the actor's name? Is it not in the story? Reb.
Yeah, Reb Brown.
Reb Brown.
I remember.
So this isn't even the 1990 Captain America film we're talking about. We're going way back to 1979.
Yeah, this was
Cap TV movie.
This was part of I would say string, but you might as well say a string of bad Marvel decisions at the.
I mean, they were doing their part of me. Right. Part of me is thinking they're just doing their best with what they could do. Special effects wise, well, obviously they were not putting a lot of money into this, so it wasn't even the best special effects that money could buy. Right. But what they incorporated was the motorcycle riding, glass shield carrying, motorcycle helmet wearing Captain America, and they actually have in what's kind of like a hall of Captain America uniforms.
So it's canon.
A version of this motorcycle suit and glass shield, and it's when I went back to my comic and looked at it, I was like, oh no, it is there. So
I don't know if you ever watched that movie.
I did.
Okay,
it was heartbreaking.
It was not great. So because basically Captain America, as this article also suggests, says he was more a stuntman than the Cap we know, but. Yeah, it was not great. The Fantastic Four movie around that time that came shortly later, Not great, also, by the way, but you should still watch it. It's weird. Also, this was also before.
Oh no, that came well after.
Yeah, no, but still.
Yeah, this is more along the lines of one web shooter Spider-Man.
Let's not. Come on, stop. Don't do that. Don't do that.
That was always my biggest problem with it.
Well, I was going to say though, it does definitely come after that 70s Spider-Man. Also comes before or around the same time, because I think it was like a year or two later, the Incredible Hulk live action version that we know, which was good. Also before Spider-Man and therefore Spider-Man and Amazing Friends animated series.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm just saying there was some good stuff around it, but yeah, this was not one of them. So yeah, but now it's canon. Congratulations. Wait, there was a sequel? I don't remember that.
I think there was.
Oh jeez. That's a good
Watched it on TV, hoping for better, and it wasn't.
Oh God, do you remember that Hulk live action movie with Thor?
Yes. Oh gosh. Can we move on, please?
Yeah, there's been some in the past. So Marvel's more than been making up for it in the past 10, 11, 12 years, however. So yes, man, there's been some things. Next up, anyway, just
awful.
Man, Marvel Comics plans to quote unquote kill Spider-Man next month. So apparently Spider-Man is seemingly set to die in the pages of writer Tom Taylor and artist Ken Lachey's Friendly Spider-Man number 12, because there's not enough death looming in that book already. And this is coming from, I guess, the solicits from. Well, this solicit would have been out already. Just so happened to be coming to pass next month, so never mind. But yeah, so apparently it says here Spider-Man's day is come and gone. So now's a good time to mention Spider-Man dies in Friendly Neighborhood number 12. Sorry, that's from the solicit from 12.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently he's going to be solving his own death. So how that's going to happen, with or without the intervention of Doctor Strange, because that has been the thing that has happened. You should check out the Order or the Oath.
Right, and just as an aside, anyone who hears this and is surprised shouldn't be, because this is Tom Taylor kind of having his own corner of the Spider-Man universe to play in.
That's true, like he did with Injustice,
yeah, I mean that's definitely a strength of Taylor's writing, is that he doesn't have to deal with of the stories that he's telling. He doesn't have to deal with a lot of the crossover stuff.
Well, except for some of the stuff that has been mentioned in this has gone over to Amazing. Amazing, so there is something there.
Right. There's definitely some interconnectivity, but in terms of what he gets to do, he does sort of get to play in his own sandbox.
Right. So that's the thing. She-Venom No More. Cullen Bunn introduces Scream with Absolute Carnage event. Another Venom. Another. Well,
yeah, it's another. Right. It's another symbiote, and apparently this was a character that was once named She-Venom way back in the early 2000s.
Right, according to this article. So,
and nowadays, it's as they're bringing all these symbiotes and all of this is explained in the apps in the I wanted to call it the Maximum Carnage book this week.
Absolute
right, in the Absolute Carnage book this week, some of this is explained as to why all these symbiote characters are going to be coming back to the forefront for this event.
Just let them all die. God, talk on it. But on the side, a very sad random note, sort of. I was doing some lookup for something in Future Foundation, which came out this week, which I didn't mention, but it doesn't really matter. Basically powers based. But I ended up coming across another Ghost Rider that I totally forgot about up until reading about it. And don't ask me what brought me from there from Power Pack to there. But I know with the Avengers thing, and I know I wasn't going to remember to bring this up when we talk about Avengers next, but Alexandra Jones, do you remember her?
No, but I remember seeing that there was like a first appearance of like a female Ghost Rider.
Yeah. So, but regardless, not for nothing. I was kind of wondering if that's going to show up in. I kind of doubt it, but if that was going to show up in the what's going to happen in Avengers coming up, like I said, that was just a sad thing.
You never know.
Yeah, but I kind of doubt it.
You
Well, I mean, I
never
don't.
know.
Marvel's been pretty good about a lot of polls.
Right, we're talking about deep cuts right there.
So I would be still shocked and amazed. Actually, I wouldn't be shocked and amazed, but that would be dope if they did. I'll just say that much. Because I think she's still around. Anyway, next up.
Yeah, enter the Gamerverse with your first look inside Marvel Spider-Man Velocity #1. So it's a all original story set in the Gamerverse of the PlayStation game.
Correct.
And late this August is going to is when Marvel Spider-Man Velocity #1 is going to release.
So yeah, it is all new, but if you're thinking about the Spider-Man City of War, I think that's maybe a retelling of the game, if I'm not mistaken. And there is an Earth designation because I know it didn't show up in Spider-Geddon or something. I believe
I think
it did.
so.
But regardless, I don't remember the Earth designation, and at this point, it is what it is. So yeah, there's going to be a new. Looks like Dennis Hopeless is doing this, which he's going by his actual name now, or his full name, I guess. Illustrated by Emilio Lacio and colors by Rochelle Rosenberg. And like it's already been said, coming out August 25th. So if you care, there you go. Now this next one, slightly a bit of a travesty on the writer's part. In that the bombastic Bagman, Otto Spidey's Pop's debut for Marvel's 80th anniversary. And I say what I said prior to this because he calls the article calls him Paper Bag Spider-Man.
God, that is talk about doing no work.
That's a foul. Well, I want to say, does it mention it in here? Maybe. Yeah, it does mention the fact that. No, he doesn't. Never mind. I take it back what I was about to give him some credit.
I mean, you could at least call him the Amazing Bagman because I think that's what most people called him back in, way back when.
And actually, that's what I was going to call him, but until I forgot that it was actually Bombastic Bagman.
Yeah.
So if you want a pop of Peter Parker in a Fantastic Four uniform with a paper bag over his head, you will not be left wanting for much longer. And there's going to be a Future Foundation one and Octo Spidey, which is basically Spider-Man and with Doc's arms. If that wasn't blatantly obvious. And apparently, let's see, there's also going to be the 5 original X-Men, which I thought they had them, but I know they did the 90s ones, Namor the Submariner, and the first Human Torch, which I don't know how that's going to be distinguishable from the Johnny Storm version.
There's ways to do it.
Well, if they do them unflamed, I guess, but still, and a lot of those pops look the same anyway. As much as I love them, they kind of do. Next up.
So apparently there is a live auction of Marvel Television props that is going to start this Monday. Mm-hmm. If you need some bidding help, there's a bidder's guide at propstore.com.
Yep.
And have fun spending your hard-earned money.
Yeah, right. Somebody will do it. Matt might want that Daredevil suit. We don't know. That is Luke Cage's hoodie, which I feel like you could find a similar hoodie somewhere out there for possibly less that's going to go through. But there's a bunch of stuff, and I don't know if this is for charity or anything. It doesn't necessarily say here. I doubt that is the case. And there was probably another article from months ago that does say so. But regardless, that is the thing. So at the time of this recording, if you get to the spot by the 12th and you see this and you're interested, hey, go for it. Next up, Poison Ivy's future, new green status, connection to Harley, and a Millennium possibility. So apparently coming out of Heroes in Crisis, we saw that Poison Ivy, aka Pamela Isley, has been reborn. And so apparently she's going to have somewhat of a significant future in the DC universe. We don't necessarily know what yet, but I guess there's been some things out there. Speculation with her current status.
Next up, who is Tempest Fugonaut? How Wally West Redemption and big event in 2020 hinges on this previously existing but still on the relatively new side character.
I'm glad you said that. Thank you.
What's that?
The previously existent.
Yes, I actually had to read up on this. I remember reading the story. I don't remember it exactly now, but apparently they're going to try to start Wally West Redemption in September's Flash Forward #1, and it's going to be helped along by a character that we are supposed to know.
Right.
And I'm like, I wish now my sound effects worked and I could use who. Because I was like, who the blankety blank is Tempest Fugonaut?
Right.
And why the hell would they name him Tempest Fugonaut?
To be fair, there has been a Tempest Fugit. I don't want to say in Batman Animated, somewhere in DC Comics specifically, there's been a Tempest Fugit. It's probably the Clock Thing or somebody. Who knows? But regardless, I feel like there's been someone by a similar name. In that universe. So it's weird that they would either reuse or whatever, but hey, it is what it is. I guess somebody will find out when September hits and that pops up. Because I can't imagine anyone on this panel actually reading that. Maybe Tim, I don't know. Because I don't know anybody who's actively reading Flash at this point.
Maybe not at this point. I know that PCN_Dirt was reading it for a while. He may have fallen off on it. Right.
So, and those two would be our arguably better DC residences.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically Dirt, but you know. So. Anyway, speaking of more DC news, DC promotes Marie Javins, to lead new publishing initiatives. So, congratulations to the promotion for her. She's been in the Justice League editorial group for a good minute, which means that she is stepping off of that. And I'll go ahead and take the next one.
Okay.
In that Batman editor Jamie S. Rich takes over Justice League titles from Marie Javins. So congrats to those two on their promotions.
Alrighty.
So you can have the next one.
Next up, DC hosted 40 young women in their Burbank, California offices on Friday this past week for a unique writing workshop organized by DC and the local nonprofit Write Girl. The event included a welcome session and workshop with DC writers Mariko Tamaki and Cecil Castellucci.
Mm-hmm. So this is dope, and of course, there's some idiot coming out of the work who I saw online from that stupid gate community talking about. Well, they don't know about this person, that person, and that person. They probably ain't been on like stupid. Shut the fuck up. And to which Colleen Coover was like, they don't really need to know that kind of history to be able to write, and it's true. It's stupid. It's stupid gatekeeping things, and I wish all those people would die horribly. I mean that. But anyway, this is a good initiative. I hope more of this stuff happens. So because we could get some more
some different voices. Yes,
exactly. Out of it, as opposed to what we've had for the last 70 years.
Yeah. So speaking of the cesspool called Twitter, Superman has joined Twitter to bring truth and justice to the platform.
Yes. So yeah, apparently the account called DC Superman, and it even got the blue check mark because Twitter's stupid all the way around. But we don't know if it's this. As far as we know, it's not associated with DC. But whatever. Somebody has that account and has been tweeting out. And I look forward to when that account says something horribly wrong for them to do such thing. Anyway, hopefully that doesn't happen, and maybe it is a DC run thing, but there's nothing saying that. And apparently, Wonder Woman and Batman also have had accounts, which with the same things. But again, no word on whether this has anything to do with DC proper or it's just somebody's just doing this.
All right.
So, because there's millions of those parody accounts out there that some are good and some are trash. Next
up, some news coming out of Gen Con 2019. Night Models revealed a display of some miniatures and some new figures that will be coming out soon, namely Watchman, Mongol, Orm, Eradicator, Cyborg Superman, Metallo, and a new Superman. This is related to possibly related to a revamped DC Universe miniature game.
Yeah. So, and if not, hey, they're nice little collectibles. You know. So, cool. Next up, from Gen Con, you got me saying it now. It's Gen Con. Cryptozoic shows off new tabletop games, including DC Deck Building Rebirth and new Spyfall. So, so the DC Deck Building game is basically, so the Rebirth is, as one would expect, the last version of DC's big event, I should say, before I guess what's going on happened here. And they have done DC Deck Building. Cryptozoic has done DC Deck Building games off of various DC properties and or events in the past, and this is just a new one of those. So cool. I'm not sure. Does it say when it's going to come out? It says it looks like if they're announcing it's probably coming out soon, so no need to really go on at all of that. So if you're interested in that, go check it out.
Alrighty, next up, Transformers War for Cybertron Siege figure unboxing. So
basically this is for the Transformers trading card game of which I did a show and tell for last week, I believe. I believe this is wave 4, if I'm not mistaken. I believe this is wave 4 of that series. So following the other 3, which I won't go into. But yeah, so there was a video in here where the fine folks at Check News talk about and show off some cards. So cool. Next up, Transformers Studio Wave 8 is up for pre-order. So there is some more Transformers. I guess the Studio Series is a thing for Transformers. So here's another line of them. So there's a World War II Hot Rod, which probably looks, actually no, Hot Rod's not bad. I shouldn't say that. Which looks more like a Jaeger from Pacific Rim.
Okay.
Than a Transformer. And then of course there's the Chevy from Bumblebee movie. There's the RC 3-pack, which is RC, I believe RC Elite 1 and Chromia. And there is Soundwave, but not the Soundwave that we know and love as a cassette deck. He's a bend. Soundwave is not a bend. He's a cassette deck. Thank you very much. Let us move on.
All right. It's time to fix time with the new Back to the Future board game. Some more news out of Gen Con. The game designed by some folks is a cooperative dice game that follows a scenario where Biff has stolen the DeLorean using its time-traveling powers to go on a terrible joyride through time and space. And it's up to you, the player, to stop him.
Great Scott! That's about as best I can do. So
there you go.
It was bound to happen. So yeah, that's another board game, Back to the Future. It's been a comic book. Sure. Let us move on. Oh, joyful. Rob Liefeld quits Youngblood over dispute with co-owners.
Yeah, this is messed up. As much as I'm not the biggest fan of Rob Liefeld or Liefeld or whatever the hell his name is, this isn't cool. because it's related to money and
Mhm.
how it kind of muddies the waters when it comes to intellectual property. Because when it comes down to it, oftentimes it's these pieces of IP that are the only things that creators have any sort of collateral in that they can use to borrow, to make money from. And Liefeld made a deal with this person who he's feuding with to get an infusion of cash in the 90s.
Mhm. But at the same time, he's got a way bigger, much more popular person that he has his claws into. So I don't feel that bad about it. It is terrible. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Let's
That's
not.
the thing is, I don't care about the specifics of this case. I just, it's the general principle of
True.
creators who, like I said, who really only possess the intellectual property
Right.
as collateral for for anything, for making money. And it sucks that when people invest in it and have a stake in it, um, and only put money into it and didn't put any of the effort into creating it, and all of
Right.
a sudden the people who have money want to have a say. It just sucks.
Yeah. True. So, but like I said, I don't think he's sobbing over it too much outside of his public display because, yeah. But yeah, on that front, what you just said, it is very much terrible and shouldn't happen. But yeah. Kent and Smith suit up for fantasy story folklore. Sorry. Yeah, Matt Kent is working with artist Matt Smith on a new creator-owned series titled Folk. I'm going to do that.
I was about to say, this sounds like an episode of The Good Place.
I don't
know if anybody out there watches The Good Place.
I've never watched it. I think I'll take it back. I have seen the first episode.
I burned through it as part of a summer binge,
as you do.
And well, listen, running out, there's some time on our hands now.
Look,
so
man, you got anime to get through.
That too. I do admit that I'm behind on my anime catch up.
Yeah, but yeah, I've heard great things about that show, so I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, so Folklords is a Boom Studios joint by Matt Kent and Matt Smith, set to launch November 13th. It's a 5-issue monthly series, which means it's a mini series.
Mm-hmm.
But it's coming out monthly, so sure, okay. But it is set in a fantasy or world of fantasy where a young man named Ansel begins chasing his visions of something the locals refer to as the Folk Lords. And I almost want to say the Funk Doctor Spot, but we're not going to do that either. So yeah, if that sounds of any interest to you, you should go check that out in November. Last but not least,
Archie Comics' Cosmo, not the Russian space dog from Guardians, returns for a new miniseries in November. So Cosmo, Archie Comics' resident alien adventurer, is returning for a new limited series later this year. Cosmo, the Mighty Martian, launches in November.
So I was a fan of the original version of Cosmo, the Merry Martian, which is decidedly different from this new take. And I remember we had an article on the new designs for this thing, which I think it might have been another project before this one, or this is that project. I can't remember.
I think this might be it.
Yeah, but regardless, I don't know. I was not a fan of this redesign, but it is kind of grown on me, and it's not for me anyway because it's decidedly more for kids.
Sure.
Obviously, so it's not for me. So regardless, it doesn't matter. But yeah, it is a thing. So there you go.
Sure.
And that, folks, there be that.
I do have an unboxing.
Oh yay! Hold on a sec. Hang on. Before you do that, let me.
Last ad read of the night is for Amazon because we are in a hurry. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop and help keep our podcast free. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or toys. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment, ka-ching, that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
Oh, that was perfect timing. Sweet.
All right. So we've got a new setup here for the ladies and gentlemen who are watching the video feed. I'm happy to report that the stream output that I see looks pretty cool. So the unboxing that I've got this week is for something I got courtesy of @MattWang97, friend of the show. Shout out to @MattWang97, who kindly stood online or in the queue, however you want to phrase it, at Hasbro to get me the 80th anniversary Incredible Hulk. So this is the outer box, and it's pretty cool. It's almost got like a blank cover on one side and a black and white Hulk drawing on the other. It's a crying shame that this is probably going in the trash, getting recycled. You were saying, Roddy? Yeah, I know. It's a shame because this is not the main packaging for the figure. This is the outer box. There is another box. It's the regular shell packaging, and this here is the gigantic Incredible Hulk figure. This is much more of a 90s short haircut, like late 80s, early 90s version of the Incredible Hulk. Part of me is kind of pining for the mop head Sal Buscema Incredible Hulk hair that's in the Wolverine Hulk 2-pack that I may pick up. But I particularly like this rendition of the Hulk. He is pretty classic looking. He does come with a crushed pipe accessory that you can see here beneath his right arm. And all in all, this is a pretty solid figure. It's a shame that he doesn't have two fists as opposed to one fist and one kind of bendy hand to hold stuff. But like I said, all in all, it's a pretty solid figure. So thanks again to @MattWang97 for kindly waiting in line to pick this up for me. I know that he picked up the collector and oh goodness, was it the game master? No, the whatchamacallit, was that the Grandmaster, not the Game Master, the Grandmaster and the Collector from the MCU for classic materia. Yes, I opted for the Hulk figure. Yeah, all three of them. Yeah. I think he would have opted for the Transformers, but that was a little bit pricey. Yeah, that was on the pricey side. So, but anyway, I'm glad that I had something to unbox here on the show.
Nice and perfect timing because I fixed the other scene. So as we come to the end of this here Comic Book Chronicles, we would like to thank you, each and every one of you, for coming out like you do every time you listen to the show or watch the show, whichever you choose to do. We will be back next Thursday, as PC and Unscored Dirt jokingly said before the show, around 10 o'clock. But now we usually start to try to record about 9-ish, 9:30-ish.
Yeah, we're always on around 9-ish, but it almost never fails. At least now with our new light stream source of broadcasting, that something pops up.
Yeah, or something needs to be fixed, and that's going to be an ongoing thing. But it looks like the majority of it is getting ironed out at least. So I got ahead on some of the stuff that can be wrinkled out. But anyway, that is neither here nor there any more than it has to, because this has been the Comic Book Chronicles, and I'm not ending the show, but we love you all. That's all I'm gonna say. So for Agent_70, you can find him at Agent_70 at Twitter and Instagram. For myself, exactly. You can find myself at, and actually, I did put lower thirds on both of us. You can see, oops, you can see his down there, and you can see mine's right there.
Right.
But anyway, if you're watching the video, if you're not, then Roddykat on Twitter, News Nerds Need on Twitter, News Nerds Need Reddit. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
Ka-ching!
Exactly. PC_Dirt. You can find him on the Twitters, popculturenetwork.com and popculturenet on Twitter.
Ka-ching!
And of course, all of his other umbrella
websites under the popculturenetwork.com.
Indeed. Tim DOGG98, the Osiris of this ish. You can find him at that on Twitter. You can also find him on CB Cron on Twitter, the Click Nation on Twitter. That's DKLIQNATION, and of course, theclicknation.com and Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. Go read his work.
Ooh, ka-ching!
And you can find this here podcast on CSPN.us.
Do it today.
Exactly.
Ka-ching!
Also, Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Coastal Lizard Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Ka-ching!
Subscribe. Just go subscribe in all the places.
And 5-star reviews, especially on Apple Podcast.
Sure. Yeah, do that. Yeah, like you said, I guess. We don't guarantee to read them. We like them. That'd be nice.
No, we need them. We're trying to beat the algorithm.
Yeah, that's game to game. That's right. So, anywho, with that being said, this has been